Today on my table is the new FUJIFILM X100VI. Originally, I was not planning to test the camera, but we got so many requests from people to test and see how this camera actually works in video mode. People were even asking, is this a professional tool? Well, as long as you can make money from what you do, I guess it's a professional thing. So we were very curious to see how this performs in video mode, next to photos, of course. But what we wanted to do is also take the footage in a little bit of a different way. So we literally attached an anamorphic adapter on this 23mm lens, just to give a different aesthetic to the picture. So let's start by watching a short mini documentary that I made. I want to thank Alp. He's a very nice person. He's hosting people at his home for dinner. And right after, I'll be here together with Florian, my colleague, to talk about the camera. So let's watch the mini documentary first. Spring in Vienna is a beautiful time to not only test out new gear, but also experience what hidden experiences the city has to offer. Alp, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
It was a long day, a long night yesterday. Huh?
Yeah, it was. I've had 2 long nights even actually. Yeah.
It's the second day in a row I'm spending with Alp. Last night, one of Vienna's said hidden experiences happened right here in his apartment. It's a very different experience also for myself. What I mean is, you have a day job.
I have a day job.
So what do you do for living?
My day job is architecture. I work in an office. I'm doing lots of residential buildings in Vienna. I work 40 hours and most of the time my job is a lot of drawing floor plans and deciding how a flat should be arranged, taking care of all the regulations in Vienna and sort of creating a building, yeah.
But let me start from the beginning. A couple of years ago, Alp moved to Vienna for work and started a new life here.
But what I'm really passionate about is cooking.
And like other people who are passionate about cooking, you also took it to the next stage. And the next stage means hosting people at home. Are you crazy?
I know it sounds a bit crazy to host people in my own place. But at some point I wanted to really test my cooking skills in the public domain, let's say. So
he did. In his free time, Alp hosts whole dinners for anyone who wants to sign up. It's an experience that people from all over the world, not just Vienna, participate in. It's also not necessarily an exclusive dinner. If someone else books a dinner on the same day as you might end up sitting next to a complete stranger. But that's what makes it a fun and new way to experience food and meet new people, not only for visitors, but also for locals. After the table is booked, Alp prepares for dinner. Fresh ingredients are important to him, so he shops at the local market. As preparing takes the most time, he often starts the day before the event. But surprisingly, Alp hasn't always been the greatest cook.
when I moved to Vienna, first off, I didn't have much money, so I didn't want to eat outside all the time. Plus, when I did eat outside, I was very unhappy with the food. So I started to cook by myself, and I always went to my mom because as I really liked her food. So I started to sort of ask her questions, but the thing is I just didn't believe her. I didn't believe the advice she gave me, and I always sort of challenged her ideas and everything. So it became a bit like a competition, and I think that competition drove me to really improve my cooking, yeah.
When the table is just about set and the first guests are arriving, you can feel the tension in the air.
There is definitely an element of excitement and nervousness in the beginning before you meet the people. I think after having hosted people for 2 years, I can safely say that it can go in all kinds of directions. Can go into the direction of them looking at me sort of pissed off, or it can go, I don't know, you feel like you're best friends forever with this person.
The first two guests arrive. Joseph got invited by Sonia for a special occasion. It's his birthday today.
I brought Prosecco. When did you start doing these dinners?
2 years ago, something like this.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's a long time.
Yeah, it's been. Now I'm used to like 2 years ago. If you were here 2 years ago, I was unbelievably nervous.
Yeah.
Because you never know. Very often, the people who book these dinners are couples. If there's only me, but I'm sort of in my mind sometimes in the kitchen, it really helps that there are some extra people they get to know. So these days, I invite extra people. That usually creates a more relaxed atmosphere. Yeah, go ahead. Take your places.
Now that Ryan and Clarisse have arrived, the guests gather at the table. Alp takes the time to fill up their glasses, explain the dishes he has prepared, the process of making them, what makes them special, and they also let them know if he has prepared any of them for the first time. And what type of food are you actually cooking?
My cuisine is influenced a lot by the Middle Eastern cuisines. Let's say I'm from Istanbul, so the cuisine from Istanbul, my family's cuisine, the Sephardic cuisine, a little bit. I have my influences from different cooks like Ottolenghi or the Refika Birgül from Istanbul, and I have also a lot of Asian influences. I do fermentation workshops, so I use also a lot of fermented products in my cooking.
And just like that, the dinner has begun.
The roasted.
Yeah, there needs to be some kind of fire in the kitchen.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's a camera here. What are you gonna do, right?
The atmosphere is good, and as the evening goes on, the four guests get to know each other through the taste of the food presented to them. But it doesn't end with the meals laid out on the table. Alp continues preparing dishes for his guests to try.
It's very important to have a rice cooker.
This is oranges, burrata, some tahini, and oil made out of, with a lot of lavender and roses. There is a rose kombucha in it. There is a little bit of rose water in it, and some coriander seeds. Yeah.
And of course, Alp ends the evening with a homemade birthday cake for Joseph.
There are nicer things.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joseph. Happy birthday to you.
The evening comes to an end with laughter, full stomachs, and new recipes saved on our phones. Alp is the perfect host who has a lot of passion and love for the food he makes. I have my own thoughts about what makes his experience so special, but I want to know Alp's opinion. Why would anybody consider to come to a private person who is actually not a chef and not just go to a restaurant? What is the biggest strength, the most important reason?
I mean, there are a couple of reasons. When you're traveling, I think one of the most exciting things is to meet people. It is definitely the reason, one of the reasons at least, I'm doing it, because it provides me with, I'm kind of traveling without really traveling. It's always a person from a different country, so I think it is definitely a very enriching experience for a traveler.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Alp, and thank you, Jay, for editing this piece. Florian.
Hi, Johnny.
So Florian is a very good friend, but he's also, of course, a colleague. We are working together at CineD, and you tried it in video mode, in photo mode. So what is so unique about this camera? Why people really like it?
To be honest, I had mixed feelings when it came out. For me, this is the first time I actually used a fixed lens camera. This actually made me kind of curious how I could get creative in a different way again, like kind of find my creativity in photography again. So I, of course, picked it up and tried what I can do with it. At first, it was extremely limiting for me because I was not used to using a fixed lens camera.
It needs some time to get used to.
I walked a lot of steps that day, the first day I actually used the camera, but it kind of unlocks something in your brain when you start thinking about composition in a very different way. Then you start taking pictures and you actually experience something really nice and something very unique, in my opinion.
Can we both agree that there is something very unique in this camera that actually brings the joy of filming and taking photos again? That's maybe the essence, next to being a very fashionable item.
It's a very emotional product, I would say. Simply the looks of it. I mean, it's a very good looking product. People really want to touch it, people want to pick it up, people want to look at it. Simply as a fashion product.
Can we agree that the camera with the silver part is a little bit nicer than the black?
Oh, it's so much sexier than the pure black one, in my opinion.
Let's talk about the video side, because of course most of our audience are actually interested to know how this camera performs when it comes to video. So first of all, there is something very nice about the size itself. Yeah, if you're doing run and gun, that's very nice, but the grip here, of course, is very much lacking. It's just too small, even to my small hand. In the market, you can find some additional grip. So obviously the grip itself will be a bit wider here, and that will be easier to hold. This camera can shoot 6K, 4K, and so on. Then when it comes to the lens itself, it's 23mm fixed lens. It is wide, but maybe not wide enough. And we also have to say that when you use the high quality mode, that means higher data rate, you actually crop even more. When it comes to audio, yeah, well, you can listen to what you are recording, but you need a USB-C to a mini plug adapter. And if you want to connect an external microphone, the interface here is 2.5mm. It's not really a standard. I mean, it is, but it's not. Even the battery, we understand that they try to keep it small, minimalistic,
and lightweight.
And lightweight. Well. The other thing is the IBIS, or the internal stabilization system. We both liked it because it adds something, but will you agree with me that at times the stabilization is simply not strong enough?
That is true. I really love that they were able to build IBIS into this form factor, basically not making the camera much bigger than it was before without IBIS. But at times, like you said, especially with a 23mm lens, like oftentimes it seems to be just a bit too weak to be actually really, really usable.
That's my feeling too. And the other thing that I think we both liked is the built-in ND filter. This is of course a feature so many of us want to see the same in so many other cameras, but here is a bit easier to implement because it is a fixed lens. But it's either off or on, and when it's on, it's 4 stops ND filter. So, you know, it's strong,
but sometimes not strong enough.
Yeah, so obviously we can't have it all. So I'm thankful, we are thankful to what there is here, but take into account that you might have to use an additional ND filter, especially in a hot, sunny, cold, sunny day. I mean, I can of course talk about the F-Log 2. I can talk about 422 10-bit internal recording 6.2
6.2K
that the camera has.
16:9 though, not open gate 3:2.
That's right. So when you are filming in such a high quality, and I have to say the final image is really nice, yeah. How about overheating? Because I kindly ask you to test overheating. What is your impression?
We kind of made this a thing at CineD that we kind of let it run as long as we can until either the battery runs out, until the memory card is full, or the camera overheats. With this camera, it was kind of nice to see that there was an overheating warning coming on screen. There's also a menu where you can set the warning for high temperature.
Which is really a must. I mean, if you are planning to shoot for a longer period of time, please turn it on, otherwise it will happen much faster.
You can set it too high,
yeah.
And then it basically runs as long as the battery has charge. Just only like 1 minute before the battery was empty, the camera actually said, okay, I'm getting too hot, I cannot record anymore. And that was maybe 1 minute before the battery was empty, and then you simply take out the battery, which was getting hot at the time. Then you just put in a brand new fully charged battery in, and you could start filming right away. The overheating warning completely was gone. Not even the yellow, the early warning, it was completely gone, and you could start filming or taking pictures right away, which is nice.
So we are talking about, I think it was 40 minutes for 6.2K.
It was between 40 to 45 minutes at the maximum video resolution at 6.2K in the maximum bitrate.
So now we also have an answer for how long the battery actually runs in the camera.
There is no record limit, which is nice. Like, there's not like a 29-minute record limit until you have to start a new clip.
When talking about memory cards, we have to say there is only one slot, and it is SD card.
It's also UHS 1, not the faster UHS 2 standard, which also limits what the camera can record internally. That's why you're also only seeing up to, I think, 200 megabits per second of data rate and not higher.
Honestly, I was surprised to see how clean the image is, and because it's 10-bit 4:2, it was quite easy to manipulate it in post when it comes to color correction.
Exactly. It depends on where you're coming from, what you need it for. Of course, it will not give you 700 megabits in ProRes, because that amount of data simply cannot be written to the card. But for most applications, I did not see that there were any shortcomings there.
That's true. So I also want to indicate one more thing about the video that we just saw. So as I said, I took it with Anamorphic Adapter from SLR Magic, and I also used Black Promise in front of the adapter. Honestly, I think I used a bit too strong Black Promise here. It was a quarter instead of maybe 1/8.
At times it was very blooming, but it looks very dreamy.
But hey, that was also part of the experiment, also to see if we can get a bit of a different look from the camera, and obviously it is possible.
Also, one thing, in order to attach the anamorphic adapter, you have to get a bit crafty, because by default this lens does not have an inner filter thread. First, you have to add a filter adapter in order
exactly.
to be able to attach a filter or the anamorphic adapter.
That's right. Good. Florian, anything else before we kind of summarize our thoughts about this little camera?
One thing that I thought was kind of odd is a physical decision that Fujifilm made, which is something that you will not see often. They changed the thread position for the tripod mount. So as soon as you attach a tripod plate, you cannot access the battery or the memory card anymore. So every time, also because the memory card is inside of the battery compartment, every time you want to get the card out, you have to open this. So when you have a tripod plate attached, you cannot get to the battery or the memory card.
Yeah. One more thing to talk about here, camera to cloud option with Frame.io is actually built in, meaning you don't need an external grip. You will be able to record directly to the cloud. If you have this account, you can do this already. So let's talk also about practicality. One of the things that I really liked, and you know what, it's really funny because at the end, of course, this is like a mobile phone, iPhone 15 for the sake of argument, and we have this, both can fit into a pocket. So in a way, you get a usability of a mobile phone in the sense of practicality, in a nice look, but also the results are very nice. How did you feel in terms of usability?
Actually, it's great that you compare it to using the phone, because starting with the iPhone 15 Pro, I decided I wanted to try using the mobile phone as my primary camera. It was interesting to see how versatile it would be, but then coming back to a dedicated camera with a large sensor, there was just such a big difference in image quality. The iPhone is doing a good job at what it does, but simply without having a computer that influences your image, the images out of this camera are simply stunning. They are something completely different. So what you get looks more natural. Both fit in your pocket. I mean, you need quite a bigger pocket for this. Probably will not fit in your jeans pocket, for example. Take this, put it in your pocket, and just simply every time you need it, you just turn it on, take a picture, and then put it back in.
You also work together with the app.
The app is a great thing as a companion to the camera. In my opinion, it doesn't do anything that is essential. It just adds nice to haves that you cannot do in the camera. For example, the camera does not have GPS inside. And when you connect the app, the X app, with the camera, you can also make those two sync. So as long as the camera and the phone are nearby for a certain period of time, then the camera will actually record the geolocation data to the images itself as well, which is kind of handy.
And there was something into the picture aesthetic, and we're talking about photo now, that you really liked. It felt like with a bit of tuning and the film simulations, you were able to get nice photos that reminded you an analog film.
The analog part is kind of the theme of this camera, it seems. Because, I mean, it looks like a rangefinder. It is a rangefinder camera. It has an optical viewfinder. And of course, it does have the film simulations, which emulate analog film. And this was the first time that I actually dove into tuning film simulations. There is a whole community out there on the internet that use standard film simulations and then tweak them to look more like, for example, Kodak Portra, or any other like CineStills, or any other analog film simulation that is not made or that is not installed originally for this camera. So I started to experiment a little with grain size, grain effect at all, and some other parameters that you can tweak, and it made me feel like, okay, this is as close as I can get to analog film as I have ever seen in a digital camera, which made me almost feel a bit nostalgic, which is kind of nice.
So other few elements that I liked in the camera. First of all, this is the first camera out of the GFX world that has the FUJIFILM Reala Ace film simulation, and this is really nice. This is something for you guys to explore in case that you get the camera. Next thing, it can do 4K 60p. The image is slightly cropped. You have to take this into account. It also has high frame recording, up to 240 frames per second in full HD. When it comes to recording codecs, please take into consideration that there is no ProRes recording in this camera. It's either H.264 or H.265.
In 422 and 420.
8 or 10 bit.
Correct.
Florian, one of the things that I saw in photo mode is actually the ability to adjust the grain in the photo. Unfortunately, this feature is not available in video mode.
This would just be so nice to either to add grain to the film simulation in video mode, or simply if there was a way to export a lookup table, for example, with all the tweaks that you made to the film simulation in photo mode, and apply this LUT to the F-log footage, for example, after you shot something in F-log, simply to get more of a customized look on top of the film simulations, which would be very nice.
Good. Florian, thank you very much for joining me. Guys, thank you very much for watching. We try to do this review in a bit of a different style this time, more of a free conversation, and in all honesty, it's always nice to talk to Florian.
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. Guys, thank you very much, and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.